Okay, so here's the thing. You don't start at the top. Nobody does. But some people start so far from the top that the people at the top don't even notice you exist. And that's not a disadvantage. That turns out to be the whole thing. That turns out to be the weapon. You're 24. You're in Akron, Ohio. Not the interesting part of Akron, the part that people who live in Akron refer to as out there. Your car is a 2009 Honda Civic with a rear bumper that's been zip-tied twice and repainted once and is still wrong. You have $800 in your account, a laptop that makes a fan noise when it gets warm, and a specific frustration that you've been carrying around for 3 years that you haven't quite put into words yet. You worked IT help desk at a regional insurance company from 22 to 24. Same 4 problems every day. Password resets, printer drivers, someone clicked something they shouldn't have, a conference call that wasn't working and needed to be working in 4 minutes. Every single time, you put in a ticket. The ticket goes somewhere. 3 days later, maybe someone calls back. The person who needed the printer fixed has already printed from someone else's desk and moved on with their life. The ticket is still open. It will remain open. It is doing nothing. Everyone knows it's doing nothing. It's a monument to the pretense that something is being handled. You quit on a Wednesday. Not dramatically, you just stop going. You tell your manager by email at 7:43 a.m. and he replies 2 hours later saying, "Okay, let's connect on transition." You never connect. The transition happens without you, because there was never anything to transition. You spend 3 weeks in your apartment eating cereal for dinner and writing down every small business you know that has a terrible website. Not just a bad website, terrible. The kind of website where the copyright in the footer says 2011 and the contact form goes to an email nobody checks, and there's a photo carousel that only works in Internet Explorer. You find 40 of them in your zip code alone. You print the list, you stare at it. 40 businesses operating at a disadvantage they've been trained not to see. You charge $300 for a website, not $3,000, not $1,500, $300. Your roommate, Brian, who does freelance graphic design and has strong opinions about this, tells you that you're destroying the market, that you're devaluing the work, that professionals charge more. You listen to him the way you listen to a weather report for a city you're not visiting. Politely, entirely uninfluenced.
Because here's what Brian doesn't understand. The plumber with 12 employees and a truck fleet who hasn't updated his website since 2009 is not comparing you to a professional agency in Cleveland that charges $6,000. He's comparing you to the $6,000 agency and deciding that his website is fine. His website is not fine. His website is actively costing him jobs to competitors whose websites are less terrible. But the gap between $300 and $0 action is a gap you can close. The gap between $6,000 and $0 action is apparently infinite. First 3 weeks, 7 websites, all of them service businesses. HVAC, plumbing, landscaping, a towing company, a woman named Diane who does mobile notary and also teaches ceramics classes out of her garage and needed both of these to be findable by humans. You build them in WordPress with a theme you've modified enough that it doesn't look like the theme. You add Google Analytics, you set up their Google business profile, you make sure they show up when someone in their zip code searches for what they do. Diane calls you 2 weeks later. She found you, she says. Not her website, she found her. Someone searched for mobile notary in Stowe, Ohio, and there she was, page 1. She hadn't been findable before. She'd been doing business entirely on word of mouth for 6 years, and she didn't know she was invisible until she became visible. She sounds like someone who just found out they've been walking around with their shirt inside out for a decade, mildly horrified, deeply relieved. She refers you to 4 people before the week is out. The thing you learn in the first 6 months is that the clients nobody else wants are abundant in a way that solves problems. The full-service agencies don't want a towing company with a $300 budget. The freelancers who charge $1,500 don't want to explain what a Google business profile is to a woman who has been running a ceramic studio out of her garage for 11 years. The people at the bottom of the market are not a consolation prize. They're a territory, a completely unoccupied territory. You start charging $450 after 3 months, then $600 after 6. Each increase tests the floor, and the floor keeps holding. The clients who flinch at $600 would have flinched at $300. The clients who need what you do will pay $600 without blinking, because the alternative is still the agency in Cleveland that costs 10 times more, or doing nothing, which is what they've been doing. Month 8. You hire your first person. Her name is Yolanda. She's a junior developer, 2 years out of Columbus State, currently freelancing and exhausted by the uncertainty of it. You offer her part-time, then full-time 3 months later. You give her a rate that is fair. Not flashy, fair. She shows up like someone who has decided to show up, which is different from someone who shows up because they have to. Revenue at month 12 is $14,000. Not passive, earned. Show up every day earned. But it shows up every month, and there's a shape to it now. You can see the shape. The thing that changes everything, and you don't recognize it as the thing that changes everything until much later, is a phone call from a business you built a website for 6 months ago. A concrete contractor out of Ravenna. He wants to know if you can help him with more than the website. He's got a Google Ads account that someone set up for him 2 years ago, and he's pretty sure it's eating money, but he doesn't know how to read it. You open the account. You stare at it for a long time. It is in fact eating money, significantly. Campaign targeting a 3-state radius for a contractor who does not drive to other states. Keywords bought in bulk with no negative list. Spend a $1,400 a month producing 2 leads, neither of which converted. You fix it in an afternoon. You narrow the radius to 30 miles, you add 140 negative keywords, you restructure the ad groups, you set the monthly cap at $600 and tell him to call you in 30 days. He calls in 22 days, 9 leads, 3 converted, more revenue in 22 days than the old account produced in the prior 4 months combined. He pays you $400 for the fix. You feel like you've made a math error somewhere. You run the numbers again. You haven't. You start offering it as a service, not instead of websites, in addition to. Because the same business that has a broken website usually has a broken Google Ads account, or no Google Ads account, or a Facebook business page that hasn't been posted to since 2020 with someone's going away party photo still pinned to the top. You're not selling them one thing. You're selling them the version of their business that the internet can see. Full picture. All of it. The price goes to $800 for a new client package, then $1,200. Then you build a recurring model, monthly retainer. $350 a month includes hosting, basic updates, and a 30-minute monthly call to review the numbers. $600 a month includes all of that plus active ad management. Not glamorous, completely predictable. The recurring revenue starts at $3,200 a month and climbs in a way that feels like a ramp rather than a spike. Here is what the agencies in Cleveland are doing during this period. They are pitching custom-designed responsive websites at $8,000 to regional manufacturers and healthcare groups. They're writing brand strategy decks, they're hiring account coordinators, they're going to industry conferences. They are not thinking about you. You're not the market they're in. You're not even a category they've thought to name. That's the whole thing. That's the thing you understood intuitively before you had the language for it. The agencies built up. They chased bigger clients, larger projects, more sophisticated work, higher fees. They got better and more expensive, and in doing so, they quietly stepped away from an enormous number of businesses that needed something real but not elaborate. And those businesses didn't disappear. They just stayed stuck. Websites from 2011, invisible to search engines, spending ad money on campaigns nobody tuned. They were waiting for someone to care about them, not in a sentimental way, in a practical, someone please just fix this way. You are that person. Year 2, you have 4 people, Yolanda and 3 others. You're in an actual office. Small, second floor of a building on South Main that smells faintly of old carpet and industrial cleaner, which is honestly fine. You've stopped working from your apartment, which has done remarkable things for your sense of time. You have 61 recurring clients. You have a system now, an intake form, a 90-day onboarding checklist, a monthly reporting dashboard you built in Google Data Studio that makes the numbers look like something a client can sit with. You start getting referrals from accountants. This is a development you did not engineer and do not fully understand at first. Then you understand it.
Small business owners trust their accountants. Accountants see the full picture of what a business is spending, what it's earning, where there are gaps. Accountants refer to other professionals who make their clients' businesses work better because it reflects well on the accountant. You start showing up to local accounting association breakfasts. You don't pitch, you ask questions. You ask what their clients struggle to explain, what problems they keep seeing that aren't accounting problems. Every single time, visibility, leads, not knowing if their marketing is working or not. You build a referral program for accountants. Modest, respectful, nothing that looks like a kickback, a gift card, a handwritten note, a client they can point to 6 months later and say, look what happened. You have 12 accountants sending you clients within 18 months. None of them exclusively, but regularly. The business development question you keep not asking yourself out loud, but is always there underneath, is when do you stop being the person other companies overlook and start being the person they have to respond to? The answer turns out to be later than you expected and all at once. Year 3. An agency from Columbus, mid-size, good reputation, design awards on their website, loses a longtime client who manages a chain of 14 regional urgent care clinics. The client had been with them for 4 years. The relationship wasn't bad. The results were modest. The price was significant. The client hired you instead, at less than a third of the monthly retainer they'd been paying, because someone on their operations team had worked with a plumber in Stowe who you'd helped and had pulled your name up from memory. The Columbus agency doesn't know you exist. Within 90 days, the urgent care chain has a functioning local SEO infrastructure, all 14 locations appearing correctly in local search, Google ads running to geo-fenced audiences within 4 miles of each clinic, monthly reporting that their clinic managers can actually read and respond to. Their walk-in volume increases 19% over baseline. You document every number. That documentation becomes a case study you publish on your website with the client's permission. That case study is read, you'll learn later, by the operations director of a regional grocery chain in Canton, who passes it to his marketing team, who calls you. Scale produces a different kind of credibility than prestige. Prestige is what agencies sell. Scale, documented and specific, is what operators believe. Month 34. You have 140 recurring clients. You rebrand. Not dramatically, you refine. The company had been operating as what was essentially your name and a web address. Now it becomes ClearPath Digital. Still small, still Akron-based, but the new name carries without explanation. It tells you what it does in the word itself. And the logo doesn't look like something a 24-year-old made at 1 a.m. anymore. You hire a director of client services, a woman named Priya who spent 7 years at a regional agency in Pittsburgh and is, by her own description, tired of pitching work that gets watered down in committee. She joins you for $15,000 less than she was making. She tells you she took the pay cut because she wanted to do real work. She calls it that, real work. You understand exactly what she means. Priya restructures onboarding, cuts the average time from 60 days to 22. Clients start seeing results faster. The retention rate, which was already high, becomes remarkable. Your churn rate in year 4 is under 6%. The industry average is somewhere between 20 and 30. You're not managing clients, you're running something closer to a utility. Businesses that have plugged in don't unplug. What you realize around this time, and it rearranges how you think about everything, is that the companies who were supposed to dominate this space made a series of individually rational decisions that collectively left an entire market unserved. Every time they raised their minimums, they were being smart about margins. Every time they fired a small client to take on a larger one, they were being smart about capacity. Every time they elevated their positioning toward brand strategy and away from basic execution, they were being smart about perceived value. They were right at every step, and they were wrong about everything that mattered. You were never competing with them. You were filling the space they left, and that space is the majority of the American economy. Small businesses, 10 to 200 employees, operating in local and regional markets, constituting the bulk of employment in every mid-sized city in the country. They were invisible to the industry's main players by design. You made them your entire focus by necessity. At some point, the necessity became strategy. At some point, the strategy became a moat. Year 5. A private equity-backed digital marketing roll-up announces they're entering the small business segment. They call it the SMB opportunity. They've raised $40 million. They hire out of Chicago agencies. They build a sales infrastructure. They price at $900 a month with a 12-month contract and a 6-month cancellation penalty. They run ads about how small businesses deserve enterprise-quality marketing. You watch this carefully. You pull their client testimonials. You read their contract terms. You identify the specific friction points, the lock-in clauses, the setup fees, the waiting period before first deliverables. You don't change your pricing. You add one line to your homepage. No setup fees, no contracts. If we don't earn your business every month, you leave. That's it. One sentence. 3 of their early customers come to you in the first 6 months. Not from a campaign, from their friends who were already yours. Year 6, ClearPath Digital is 31 people. Annual revenue, $6.4 million. You've expanded delivery to 14 states without opening a single physical office outside Akron. The remote infrastructure is native, not adapted. You hired for it from the beginning. You make a decision that surprises people when they hear it. You don't chase enterprise. You formalize the choice not to. You document it. Maximum client revenue from a single client, $4,000 a month. Not a cap you enforce on anyone, a filter on who you pursue. Because the moment one client represents 15% of your revenue, you've traded the thing that makes you hard to kill. Dependency is the vulnerability nobody names until it ends them. You've seen it happen to 3 agencies you've watched from a distance. Long relationship with an anchor client. Anchor client gets acquired. New parent company has an in-house team. Revenue drops 40% in a quarter. One of those agencies didn't survive it. The other 2 are smaller now than they were. You have no anchor clients because you decided early that anchors don't only hold you steady, they also hold you down. There is a regional trade association for digital marketing agencies in Ohio. You've been on their radar for a while. They invite you to speak at their annual conference in Columbus. You accept, not because you want recognition from that industry, because you want to see who else is in the room and what they're worried about. What they're worried about is you, not you specifically, the category of company you represent. Lean, remote-first, recurring revenue operations with low overhead and a client base that large agencies have structurally abandoned. They're debating what to call it. Some say commoditization. Some say race to the bottom. You sit on the stage and listen to a panel of agency owners describe your business model as unsustainable and feel something that is not quite satisfaction but is adjacent to it. You don't argue with them. You give your talk. You show their retention numbers, the churn rate, the per-client profitability across 5 years. You ask one question from the stage before you finish. You ask how many businesses in Ohio have between 10 and 100 employees and are currently not working with any marketing agency of any kind. Nobody in the room knows the answer. You do. You've pulled the data. It's 94,000 businesses. You let the number sit there for a moment. Then you thank them for having you. Year 8, you make 2 acquisitions, a one-person operation in Dayton that has 60 small business clients, and a guy who's excellent at his work and completely burned out on running a business. You pay him $180,000. Fair price. He stays on for 6 months, transitions his relationships, genuinely seems relieved. The second is a small SEO firm in Toledo. 4 people, niche expertise in local search for healthcare and legal services. You've been wanting that capability. $290,000 and equity for the founder. She stays, still there 4 years later. You don't acquire for size. You acquire for capability gaps and client density in markets where you're underrepresented. The template is always the same. Keep the people, absorb gradually, don't let clients feel a transition. Most of them don't notice until they see the ClearPath name on their next invoice, and even then, half of them need it explained. The product that you didn't see coming is the dashboard. ClearPath had always sent monthly reports. Then Priya standardized them. Then someone on the technical team built an internal tool to generate them faster. Then a client asked if they could log in and see the numbers live instead of waiting for the monthly email. You built a client-facing portal. Took 4 months. Cost $80,000 in development time, which was most of your technology budget for the year. 6 months after launch, your churn rate drops from 6% to under 3%. You don't have data to prove the portal caused it. You don't need data. You know what it is. It's visibility. Clients who can see their own numbers in real time don't have the psychological experience of wondering whether anything is happening. Wondering is where doubt starts. Doubt is where churn starts. You eliminated the wondering. The portal becomes a product. You spend the next year cleaning it up. Documentation, design, building out the API so it can pull from platforms you didn't build. At year 9, you license it to 4 non-competing regional agencies as a white label product. At year 10, you spin it into its own revenue line, $2.2 million annually from software, from a tool you built to keep your own clients from leaving. Year 10, 41 employees. 600 recurring clients across 19 states, revenue at $11.4 million. You are, by any reasonable measure, a mid-sized business operating in a fragmented market that you helped fragment further in your favor. What you think about alone is the nature of the thing you built, because you didn't build it from the top down. You didn't have a theory and then execute toward it. You started at the bottom of the market because you had no choice. You served people the industry had walked away from because those were the only people who would give a 24-year-old with a zip-tied bumper a chance. And somewhere in the repetition of that, you found something that scaled in a direction the established players couldn't follow without abandoning the very positioning that made them prestigious. They couldn't go back down. That was the thing. They had fixed costs and client expectations and brand promises built around being elevated. The moment they tried to compete at $300 websites or $600 monthly retainers, they would be undermining everything they told their existing clients justified their prices. They were trapped at the top by their own success. And you were free at the bottom. Which turned out not to be the bottom at all. There are 28 million small businesses in the United States. The majority of them are still functionally invisible online, still running Google ads nobody has tuned since the Clinton administration, still paying to not be found. They're not in your 19 states. Some of them are in states you don't operate in. Some of them have been waiting, without knowing they're waiting, for a version of what you built to reach them. The question you keep sitting with is not how you got here. The question is whether what you've built is the version of itself it's going to be, or whether it's the earliest version, the version that in 11 years someone will look back at from the position you're in now and describe as the beginning. You think it's the beginning. You're pretty sure it's the beginning. Yolanda, your first hire, is VP of Operations now. She manages the delivery infrastructure for 600 clients and 14 production staff, and a technical team that didn't exist when she joined. Last year, she bought a house in Cuyahoga Falls. She sent you a photo the day she got the keys. Just a photo, no text. You knew what it meant. You knew exactly what it meant. That one lands different than the $11 million. It always does. People ask what you would tell yourself at 24 with $800 in your account and the frustration you hadn't put words to yet. You think about it, honestly, not the version you'd say at a conference, the actual answer. You'd say, the businesses that no one else is bothering with are not beneath you. They're available to you. There's a difference, and the difference is enormous. Every market has a floor that the successful players have abandoned on the way up. That floor is not a ceiling. Go there first. Go there before you have a choice. Go there and do the work so well and so consistently that by the time anyone at the top remembers the floor exists, it's already yours. The strip malls of the internet, the ones nobody thought were worth cleaning,